Welcome. Welcome to Love Yourself, Love Your Life. I'm so excited to bring this training course to you. It's a summary of lots of the main things that I've learned over about 20 years of doing work on myself and about 8 years of working with clients in spiritual direction and then in life coaching. So I'm very excited to have this opportunity to work with you, and I look forward to some exciting results. So let's jump straight in. So the first thing we're going to think about in the model of training that I have is to become aware of our thinking. Do you know, research says that 80% of our thoughts are negative. That's totally normal in our society. So I just invite you to start by just grabbing a pen and paper and pausing this video and writing down all the things you've been thinking about in the last, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, a couple of hours. Just make a list of the first 10 things that you think of, at least 10, that you've been thinking about a bit recently, today. And then once you've done that, turn the video on. So how did you go? Have you got a list of things that you've been thinking about? If you haven't, don't skip this step. Do pause the video and write it down, because it will help you to get much more out of the rest of the video if you do that. So, what was on your list? I wonder how many things were positive, how many things were negative. I'd like to share a screen with you and share a model that I learned originally from Stephen Covey, who wrote the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Many years ago, I did his course, and this was the first thing that helped me to start thinking about my own thinking and becoming aware. So hopefully it helps you as well. So I'll just share my screen. So, what are you focusing on? What are you focusing your thoughts on is the question for today. Are you focusing your thoughts on things that you can control? So the sorts of things that you can control is anything at all where you have full control and you can make the choice. What do you eat for breakfast? That's totally your control. Do you take bags with you when you go supermarket shopping, or do you get plastic bags each time you shop? That's again in your control. You can choose to bring along your own bags to recycle, they're reusable, or you can choose to use the ones that maybe in nowadays where I live, you have to pay a few cents each time for a plastic bag. That's your choice. The second sort of thinking is things that you can influence. If you have young children, you can influence them quite a bit. You can influence what they do, what they eat, maybe sometimes how they treat each other. And then as they grow older and older, it gets harder and harder to influence them because they're more and more determined and clear on who they are as their own people and making their own choices. Maybe you have a spouse or a partner or a best friend, and sometimes you can influence them and they'll come and do what you want to do, but sometimes you can't influence them because you can't control them, because they have their own thoughts, their own preferences, their own things that they enjoy and don't enjoy. And so you can influence, sometimes you can influence them. The third sort of thinking is concern. And we spend a lot of time generally thinking about things that we're concerned about. For example, in this video, let's take pollution. Imagine you're concerned about pollution in your local area or pollution in the ocean. There's so much plastic that they say now is in the oceans that fish and all sorts of aquatic creatures have plastics through their system. In fact, humans do too, but that's a whole nother story. But let's stick with the fish. So you might be really worried about all the fish in the sea and all the plastic they ingest. Concern about that will just make you feel really frustrated and upset, but it doesn't help anyone. So the first question you can ask is, well, is there something I can do? Can I influence the pollution in the ocean in any way? Well, the first way might be to stop using plastic bags in supermarkets and bring your own reusable bags, and that makes a little bit less pollution in the environment. And then you can go from there and think of other things that you can do to lessen your own personal effect on the environment, your use of plastic. And then, which is bringing yourself right back from concern to influence and then ultimately to control. What do you have control over? You have control over what you use, how you use it, how many times you use it before you throw it away. Maybe you can influence the local politicians by writing to them and telling them about your concerns. So, I want to give you an exercise. Oh, because what you focus on will grow. Did you know if you focus on the things that you have control over, that actually increases your sense of empowerment, your sense of control, because the things that you're thinking about are actually things that are making a difference. If you're focusing most of your energy on things that you're concerned about but you have no power to change, just generally broadly thinking about being worried about pollution, then you actually, that part of the concern inside you will grow, but you're growing the part of you that's disempowered, the part of you that can't actually make a difference. You're just worrying about things that you can't change. Whereas if you focus on the set part of control, the path that you can change, then you feel more and more empowered because you're thinking about things that you can actually make a difference in. Makes sense, right? So, what you focus on will grow. So what are you focusing on? You might want to have a little look at your list. How many of the things in your list are things, let's just go back to that diagram. How many of the things on your list are things that are in your control? How many of the things on your list are things you might be influencing? And how many things on your list are things that you're concerned about but you really can't do much about it? Once you've had a look at that, that's interesting, isn't it? If you have mostly things that you can control as what you've been thinking about, well, congratulations, that's fantastic. That's what we're all aiming for this week, or this step of the course. If most of the things are things that you're concerned about and you really don't have any choice over it or any control, don't worry, that's totally normal. Most people in our society are like that. So you are totally normal. Welcome to the human race. We're all struggling with all that sort of thing. But here's the homework. Your exercise for this week, or this step of the process, is every time you catch yourself feeling negative, you might feel stress, anxiety, frustration, anger rising inside you. I'm just inviting you to use that as a clue, as a little trigger. Every time you notice that, ask yourself, what am I focusing on? What are you thinking about? What are you putting your energy into? What am I focusing on? And once you work out what you're focusing on, is it in the circle of control, the circle of influence, or the circle of concern? If it's something you're concerned about, then ask yourself, is this something I can control? If not, how can I influence this? If you can't control it, and you can't really even influence it, then make a little statement for yourself. You might say, change channels, or you might say, stop. I'm choosing to focus on something different. Every time you do this little change channels inside you, it would just wake you up a little bit, and creating a funny little word like that, or a little phrase, a little internal stop sign, will help you to just start catching yourself more and more as you realize what you're focusing on. So good luck with that. I really encourage you. Look, if this gets really uncomfortable because you start realizing all the negative things that you're thinking about, don't worry. Welcome to the human race. We're all struggling with negative thinking. That's just part of being human. So don't worry. Be really gentle on yourself and just see this as a little bit of an experiment. As I said, the research says that about 80% of our thoughts are negative, so that's totally normal. But just see if you can catch yourself and go stop and change that onto something more positive, something you can control, something you can choose to think about. Maybe something totally different, or it might be flipping and thinking, what can I do something about? about your topic. So the message for this week is, what are you focusing on? Because what you're focusing on will grow. All the best, and see you in the next step in the next video. All the best. Bye for now.